Ladies and gentlemen and ghetto men from the graduation, just in case any
Wait,
of you are
gentlemen?
listening, the
Really?
ghetto men, welcome back to another episode of Black Law and Legal Lies, where we specialize in bringing you the truth, the current truth as we know it. Sometimes facts change. And when those facts change, we appear to be wrong. However, we are always right. My name is Dan. Keep up with me on Twitter and on IG at I am Dan on Drugs. Keep up with the show across all platforms at Black Law Podcast.
And I'm just saying, and you can follow me at I Tell Legal Lies on Twitter. And I don't know about him. I am actually always right because I strive to tell the truth. You take your chances if you believe anything Dan says.
The
That is
current, the
the
current
truth.
truth, the current truth as we know
Oh,
it.
the current. Wait, the truth as you know it. Okay,
Right, the current truth.
gotcha,
So,
gotcha.
ladies and gentlemen, as I am pretty sure most of you are aware of the incident in Georgia, which is becoming the new normal. Like during quarantine, during lockdown. Well, no, this was before lockdown because this happened in what, February? The
This
shooting
happened.
of
This happened in February. Correct.
Ahmaud Arbery. Now, it just goes back to what we've been saying since like what, episode one, being black in America, living while black,
Right,
breathing while
living while
black.
black. I mean, we've discussed driving while black, shopping while black, like you said, just living while black. We have always been stigmatized. That is actually something that, as black and brown people, we've never been able to avoid. The what's going on now is there's more of an outcry and people are actually listening now. Been outcries throughout history, but with the advent of social media and everybody having a camera readily available, now it's seen. We've spoken about it, but what people have always said is, wham, 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 get over it. It happened, get over it, or we don't know if it happened like that. But now you have video cameras that are capturing exactly what happens. And even then, you have people that say, well, we didn't see what happened off camera. You don't
Man,
need to see what happened
that
off camera.
that social media shit and the internet, everyone being so interconnected is a gift and a curse because yeah, it does give us the ability to show people these things that happen to us in our community. But on the flip side, it also allows people like let's say the Charlottesville incident. It allows people who all share the same ideology, racist.
Hmm. Hmm.
It connects them easier. They're able to put together these events and these staged protests and things like that. So it's like it's a gift and a curse, in
And you're
my
right.
opinion.
No, you're right, because as you said, it's allowed people that are like-minded to join together readily. And it also gives them a platform, which they didn't have swiftly. I can type up something right now, send it out, and have 100,000 people react. When used to be, I actually had to work at getting what I wanted to say out. I had to
Hmm.
do more work than just type up a paragraph and hit send or post or tweet, you
Right.
know? So
So
so you're right.
apparently, Homeboy was jogging in his neighborhood or surrounding neighborhood, decided to go check out a new build, new construction. And then they released the video, security camera of him inside of this new construction. There's
20
nothing in there.
seconds. 20,
Yeah,
20 seconds. There were no walls. The
studs.
boy was
That's
in
all it
there.
was.
Right. The boy was in there, like I said, roughly 20 seconds. If that, he went in, he looked around, he
And
came
left.
out.
Now, and
Right.
curiosity. Now, there's been times where I've seen buildings being built or houses for that matter, and I've never been brave enough to go inside, but I've stopped, slowed down, looked, and I'm like, I wonder what this is going to look like. Now, if it's a house in your neighborhood, I can understand wanting to go in there and take a look at the floor plan, say, okay, well,
Check it
what
out.
what they doing in here?
Well,
Because
I can
just
tell you that,
curiosity.
right, I have been brave enough to do that. I have actually gone into construction sites and looked around. Not because I wanted to take anything, but as you said, human nature makes us all voyeurs. We are all
Hmm.
voyeuristic to some degree. So you want to see what's going on. Matter of fact, there were that at least three white guys in my office. We were having this discussion, and they said, "I've done that. I've been jogging, seen a house under construction.
Let
It's
me stop
been
you. Let
like."
me stop you. Ain't no white guys in your office jog nowhere. You lying.
I promise you, this is the way the conversation went.
Maybe one of them
I,
jogs.
I've been jogging, and this person said that the house was all enclosed, all the doors and windows were on, and he did one of these numbers
Uh huh.
at the
Peeking.
window. So it's like human, like you said, human nature. We have this desire to see,
Now,
so
and on that note, I've actually done some things a little more. All right. So, bottom line, whether
mm,
you like it or not, what he did technically was trespassing. Technically.
trespassing, correct, correct.
But
It was.
I've taken it to another level back, and I tweeted this too when the surveillance came out. They have what's called, if you're not familiar with urbex, it's urban exploration. You go, you
Mhm,
find old abandoned buildings, things that interest you, bomb shelters, old schools, and
mhm.
you essentially do the same thing. You break in, you walk around, take pictures, and it's kind of like what would the Boy Scouts say? Leave everything undisturbed, so no one knows you were there. You don't take
Mhm.
anything. You take pictures. That's it. I've been in. There's an abandoned power plant in New Orleans. I've been in Kennedy High School right before they tore it down. Broke in there.
Correct.
I've been in Six Flags, the theme park that's been closed since Hurricane Katrina that has wild boar and alligators running around. And all of that shit was I wasn't looking to steal nothing. I wasn't thrill seeking. I was just curious and I had a camera and I wanted to go take pictures of these places. So if this man got shot for going into a new construction, basically a bunch of wood, yo, shit, I'm surprised I didn't get gunned down. And
Right.
actually, there's
Well,
one time when I did get called by the police. I broke in. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when I say break in, I'm not forcibly breaking in. There are ways in, but I broke into. There's a pool in Gert Town. I don't know if it's there anymore, across from Xavier. So
mhm.
I go in there, and I'm gonna post the pictures with this episode. But I go in there and I'm taking pictures, and then it's in the neighborhood. One of the neighbors called the police, said someone was in there. So I'm crawling out, and I see the police. So he's like, what are you doing? Did you go in there? And I'm like, nope, I ain't going there. I just like peeking through there. So he's like, well, we got a call saying someone broke in. And I'm looking, it's Xavier's police. It's not even NOPD. So apparently Xavier owns that land or they lease it from the city or whatever. But that could have gone really bad had that officer really gave a fuck. But he's more like, just get the hell out of here. So yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of trespassing in my day, and never once did I think I could get shot or I would be shot. And going
Right.
back to
Well,
your boy,
it's surprising that you actually that thought never crossed your mind, considering where you were doing that at. Even though this is New Orleans, you are in the
mm-hmm,
South.
mm-hmm,
You are in the South, and not even the South, but because you are in the South, we don't have the benefit of the doubt. We are not, as Black and brown people, we are not given the benefit of much. But doubt is definitely not a benefit that we have when the circumstances call for it. And in this particular situation, Ahmaud Arbery definitely was not given the benefit of anything. He was not, and the irony of this is, and I may offend some people because I am not going to speak the name of Ahmaud Arbery's murderers. I want to call them Hillbilly One and Hillbilly Two, and that may offend some hillbillies. So I am sorry. I apologize for all the hillbillies of the world
Man, fuck
that
them
I'm actually
hillbillies.
that I'm actually putting this moniker on them. Hillbilly One, by the way, would be the father. Hillbilly Two would be the son. But the irony of the situation is Hillbilly Two's attorney, in a statement he gave a press conference, and in the statement he said that his client is innocent until proven guilty, and that is his right under the law. And I said, huh, that's amazing that his client is innocent until proven guilty, but that is a right that Hillbilly 2 and Hillbilly 1 did not afford Ahmaud Arbery. He was looked at, and in their minds, according to them, he was guilty of a crime. So because of that crime, they acted as judge, jury, and executioner and
Hmm.
summarily executed this young man.
Right.
But and then they did it, as I said, under the auspices of the law, which in Georgia has a citizen's arrest law. And there are many states that have citizen arrest laws. And they are invoking not only the citizens arrest law in this case, they're also invoking the stand your ground law, which, as far as black and brown people are concerned, is the new I can lynch them law,
Right. Now explain
basically.
for the listeners. I'm sure most of us at least have heard citizens arrest before. I've always been under the impression that that's bullshit. A citizen's arrest is bullshit.
But well, okay, so it is not bull. As I said, it is illegal, but okay, specifically in the case of the Georgia law was designed for um
Runaway slaves? No, seriously,
that's,
it
that's,
probably
that's,
really was.
that's, it was actually designed for retail
Hmm.
people, because shoplifters and we are intimately, shall we say, aware of that whole shoplifting thing in a retail setting. We used to work next door to this store where people on a daily basis would come in and steal things. And I'm not just talking little things. They would steal in basically in the eyesight of people who work there and anybody else. They would take it and casually walk out the door. But this law in Georgia was enacted for retail people so that they would be able to detain shoplifters for
Into the
the police.
cops. Now,
Right. That's what it was.
if someone places you under citizen's arrest, so let's walk through this real quick. I
Hmm.
see someone in the commission of a crime. I say, freeze. I'm placing you under citizen's arrest. Do they literally have to what's the word here? Because what I saw
Restraint.
on social media was the reason Ahmaud Arbery is dead is because he didn't comply with simple commands. That was
No.
actually said on social media by some idiot.
No.
And
Well, see,
when you think
here's
about
the
it,
thing.
why do I
No,
have to listen to simple
how is it
commands?
how is it a simple command when two hillbillies with guns are behind you saying, "Hey, I'm trying to talk to you," or "Stop, I'm
Right.
trying to talk to you." What person in their right mind would stop in
Right.
that situation.
Exactly. But again, it's just it was some white person trying to justify the actions of said two men. But well, I guess what I'm getting at is, do you have to comply with a citizen's arrest? If I place you under citizen's arrest, do you have to comply?
No. And see, that's the thing. But having said no, technically, well, let me go back. Technically you do, because it is written in the law that you can do that. You can arrest someone as a regular citizen. The law goes on, and there have been court cases about how much force can be used. And there's a case that went all the way to the Supreme Court, and basically it said that deadly force cannot be used,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, at best, as you said, Ahmaud Arbery was guilty of trespassing, which in this particular case would have been a misdemeanor, not
Mm-hmm.
even a felony, right? So that's one thing. Two, nothing that he did would warrant deadly force, period.
Right.
Nothing that he did would warrant deadly force. But as I said, the other linchpin of this situation is stand your ground, and Georgia has one of those. And as
Mm-hmm.
far as Georgia stand your ground goes, you do not have the duty to
Retreat.
back off,
Mm-hmm.
right? So now the thing becomes, okay, I was the aggressor, but I I thought that my life was in jeopardy. So I used the force necessary to save myself.
See, and what's crazy about that is I forget what episode it was, but we did an episode, and one of the examples given in the episode, I think we were talking about self defense, is
Yep, Trayvon
me
Martin. We did.
walking up to you, punching you in
Hmm.
the face,
Hmm.
and then you hitting me back and me shooting and killing you because it was self defense. When I initiated the altercation, so like, what do you expect as a normal person, not some redneck racist dude, but what do you expect when you're approaching somebody? You're armed to the teeth, like,
Hmm. And I'm
man,
not. And
right?
I'm not.
Exactly.
I have nothing except myself. And I don't even think did the young man have a cell phone, because I don't even think they said anything about him having a cell phone on him. So
I don't know, but if you're out for a jog, I would assume he might have had either a wearable device or a cell phone, but
So you have
regardless,
nothing, right?
right?
You have nothing that would incite harm, or fear of harm in anybody. But you, and see, that's the problem that I see with some of these stand your ground laws, because you can be the aggressor and then
Mm-hmm.
turn around and use this law to get you out of some stuff. So, but the one good thing is the court and everyone else has to take in the totality of the circumstances. And the fact that you were the aggressor weighs in on this thing. So, as far as Ahmaud Arbery goes and his circumstances, as I said, Hillbilly 1 and 2, they were, they pretty much premeditated this. This was not the first time that they had done this. And things are coming out now wherein Hillbilly 2, the son,
Mm-hmm.
actually had made a 911 call maybe a couple of weeks prior, saying exact same thing. They said that he sounded like he has been running, and he was severely out of breath. I heard a part of the conversation, the call, and he was saying that that was a burglary. He was tracking a burglary suspect. Same exact scenario. I'm tracking this burglary suspect, and this is where you need to get to. And when the cops came there was nobody there. But we know that that house was under surveillance, and they looked at the surveillance record, and there was a person who had gone in, same thing, did exactly what Ahmaud Arbery did, went into the house, walked around, and then walked out.
Now,
Like,
did the two dudes own this property?
no, was not
Okay.
their house, was not their house, was not their house. And the crazy thing, they had supposedly the neighbor in the house next to the new construction sent the text message to the owner after that first incident saying that Hillbilly 2 had called the cops and X, Y, and Z. And I'm sitting up here like, you know, people sometimes just ought to mind their business.
Yeah. See, in the black community, we have these rules, right, that we live by called mind your
Just
goddamn business. And
mind your business.
you know what? Everyone's for the best when you do that. When you look at a lot of these situations where I saw one video where some young black men had rented a Airbnb. One of the other ladies in the building, racist white lady, this
Mhm,
was in, I wanna say
mhm,
Norfolk,
mhm.
Virginia, Virginia Beach, somewhere there. Same she, like, harasses these boys, and she calls the police, and it's like, "You're getting out of here.
That's right.
We're put" like, no matter where we go or what we do. So I had this conversation with someone recently, right?
Mhm.
And I'm not saying this to be offensive, but if you get offended, fuck you. We were talking about the Latino community, right? And how the way this conversation was framed was, Latinos are looked down upon. They're the worst ethnicity in the United States as far as by the majority. They're looked down upon the worst. And I'm like,
Who said that?
that I'm gonna keep the source confidential, but of course it was a Latino person, but
Wow.
so we're having this
Wow.
conversation, and they're like, we get treated the worst, we get talked about, we get painted as this person is of Mexican descent, so he's like, we get painted as lazy,
Mm,
we just sneaking into the country, we're all illegal, and we're just looked at the worst, we're looked at the worst, we're treated the worst, and I'm like, that's not true. Black
right.
people have been historically treated the worst. So when the Irish came over, right? The
Mhm.
Irish, yeah, we know what it's like too to be treated. No, you don't. You really don't. The
Right.
Chinese, when the Chinese came over to help what build the railroads, yeah, we know what it's like. No, you don't. This has been consistently happening to us for since the dawn of time, pretty much since we
Right.
were
Right.
enslaved and brought over here. You look
Right.
at a lot of the Asians now, they're respected more than black people. Let me say
Right.
that.
They're prominent, they're respected, and it's okay to marry into their families. It's
Right?
okay for an Asian person to marry
A
into
white person. Yeah.
An Anglo family. It's okay. It's okay for a Hispanic person to marry into an Anglo family. Nobody
Mhm.
really looks at that. But let a brother or sister,
Right.
let a black person marry into an Anglo family. Then
Exactly. Man,
side
so
eye.
going back
Mm-mm.
to the citizens arrest and the use of
Mhm.
force, right?
Right.
Me being I don't think I made it any secret that I'm a concealed weapons permit holder, so I'm able to carry a firearm on my person that is concealed that you wouldn't know I had, right?
Correct.
So if someone places me under air quotes citizens arrest, right? And they
Mhm.
try to use force, I'm going to take that as I'm going to feel as if they're a threat.
Right.
And let's say I do what a lot of these George Zimmermans, these rednecks in Georgia do and shoot the bastard dead, right?
Okay.
Now,
Stand your
technically,
ground.
right. So which one would win? The citizen's arrest. Let's say
Okay.
there's a third party there that videoed it or something that has
Mhm.
them placing me under citizen's arrest, but they try to
Okay.
use
So here.
force and I shoot them and kill them.
All right. So here's the thing. I think that it would hinge on whether or not you were being arrested lawfully. So were you committing a crime?
Does it matter? I'm gonna say
Actually,
no.
I
I'm gonna
I would
say
think
no.
see, that's the thing, but would the video capture you in the commission of a crime? Would
Nope.
would the video would the video show you in a commission of a crime? That
Mm,
see that for me is what this thing would probably hinge on. If they were lawfully making a citizen's arrest and you shot them, then I would say that you probably wind up in jail anyway, but you would probably wind up in jail and possibly found guilty,
hmm.
right? But if these people were not lawfully engaging in a citizen's arrest and you were in fear of your life, because as mindset is the key to most things. You say you did absolutely nothing, but like most black men, if you're jogging down the street, you're suspect because, of course, as I said, you're not given the benefit of the doubt. So
Mm-hmm.
you're jogging down the street and you did absolutely nothing. You did not go into this house. You were just simply jogging down the street. And these two hillbillies jumped in the truck and they start trying to flag you down and you avoid them and eventually they get out and he got out with a shotgun, as in this particular case.
Mm-hmm.
One, you in your head, you know that you've done nothing wrong. What you see is this person jumping out of a vehicle with a shotgun. First thing I would think is this person is trying to rob me
Mm-hmm.
or, commit some sort of bodily harm, because why else would they have a shotgun in hand approaching me, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have my weapon, which I carry, and I'm carrying it lawfully. Shoot. And I would 95% think that you would be found not guilty.
By reasonable jurors. Because
Right,
let's face it. Now, what
right.
that takes us to though is a couple of contrasting incidents that also happened during the same time frame.
Mhm.
We have, well, let's
The
stay in
basketball
Georgia,
player?
the basketball player. I'm not
Mhm.
100% up on exactly what happened, but to the best of my knowledge is a couple, white couple, wandered into this man's home. The house was supposedly for sale or something, and much like Ahmaud Arbery, they wanted to be nosy. So they wanted to go
Mm.
check the house out. This is according to them, the last report I read at least. So the gate was open, gated community, gated house, gate was open. They go past the gate. The door was open or unlocked, so they decide to wander in. But we announced ourselves, and the person told us to come on in and then fired shots at us. Dude is, well, he was bailed out luckily because he had the resources, but they took him to jail immediately because black man.
He shot at some white people in his own home.
Right. So
I
that's
mean,
one.
that's reasonable. They should have taken him to jail because why should he, as a black man in America, be able to defend his home?
Psh,
Why?
I
Why? Why?
guess. And that
Why should
that
he be able to defend his home?
that reminds me too, NFL player Sean Taylor, he's deceased now, but he, if I'm not mistaken, he used to have firearms. And then he got convicted of either a felony or some kind of crime, something that prohibited him from having a
Him from
firearm.
having a firearm, right?
So he's chilling in his house. He hears some noises or whatever. He gets up to go look, and some dudes were robbing the house. They thought he wasn't there because he was a Redskins player. So, and the house was like in Florida or something. But
Redskins were on the road
they ended
that
up
day,
killing
and
him,
they thought
and
they killed him.
they killed him,
Mm.
and they finally got caught. But so he wasn't able to defend himself, because he wasn't able to possess a firearm.
Firearm, right?
Yeah, so there's just so much bullshit, man. And then the last one, homeboy, what's the dude I was reading about him today, but the EMT who was shot and killed in
Oh, yeah, yeah. So that one, that and you know, I mentioned this to you before, but Crump is involved in all of these cases, and I don't know if dude is not a good luck charm. I don't know why these people engage him, but that's just an aside. But yeah,
Benjamin
so
Crump.
EMT worker and her living boyfriend at their own home sleeping. Um, Police bust down the door. Cars that they were in were unmarked. They had no badges displayed. They had nothing to show that they were actually police officers. They
Mm-hmm.
bust in the door. Boyfriend wakes up, takes shots at these unknown armed
Intruders.
men. That's to them, to in their head, these are unarmed, these are armed intruders in my house. He defended himself. This young lady winds up dead. He winds up in jail because the cops say that they announced themselves. They had a warrant, but it was a no knock. So we discussed this off camera. It was a no knock warrant. And I don't know how familiar y'all are with jump out boys and SWAT teams and things of that nature. But I know, having been in and around law enforcement, when you have a no knock warrant, 99% of the time, you do not announce yourself. The reason why you have a no knock warrant is because you want to surprise these the people that are the target of the warrant. So you don't knock on the door and say, "Open the door, it is the police." That no
Mm-hmm.
knock warrant gives you the ability to ram the door in and rush into the house, which is what the cops did. This is what the boyfriend said, because unfortunately, this young lady cannot speak for herself. She is dead. But the boyfriend said that they did not announce themselves. He said that one minute they were sleeping, the next minute he had grabbed his gun and he was running to go and see who was breaking into their home.
Mm-hmm.
So in
And
the end, she dies, he goes to jail, and the cops are like, "Oh, we did our jobs correctly."
now, as a gun owner myself, that's usually my first reaction whenever something unexpected is happening, something's going on, loud noise, banging, whatever. Like I said for the excuse me, like I said for the show we did about my whole jury duty situation,
Right.
I
Right.
heard sounds that were loud enough to wake me up.
Right.
So if I'm sleeping and something wakes me up, startles me, I'm automatically assuming danger because that should
Right.
not be happening. I grab my
Right.
firearm. Every
Right.
time that happens, I grab a firearm. And it's like, luckily, I've never had to use it, but that's just instinctual.
Instinct. Right. It's instinct
I need
to
to
protect
protect
yourself.
myself
Right.
and family
Whomever's
and
in my house. Right.
right. So
Exactly.
he fired that, and I'd have to say I would have done the exact same
Same thing.
thing. If I'm in my
Right.
house and you're coming in, like, I don't care who
Because
you
how
are.
do I know who you are? But that's the thing, though. How do I know who you are? You
Right.
are. I can. It would be different if they really did announce themselves.
Mhm.
If they said,
But
open
even
up law
even
enforcement.
even if they did announce themselves, I think this happened here in New Orleans this was maybe in the mid 2000s. For a good month, there were
Oh,
people dressed as police officers
police officers,
serving
right?
warrants,
Stopping people.
and they
Mhm.
were robbing these people,
Mhm.
showing up at their house.
Mhm.
They left one family tied up, took all their shit. So it's like
Mhm.
even then, I would have a hard time trusting that you are who you say you are. I'm going to need to see marked cars. I'm going to need to see flashing lights and all kinds of shit before I trust at 2 o'clock in the morning that you really are the police.
I get it, but as I said, I am more apt to, if you announced yourself and then you show me the warrant and whatever, whatever. But what's crazier about that and this story is that initially they said that the warrant was gotten for the wrong home. And
Hmm.
then they came back and said they had seen her car. So correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't know if I'm remembering as accurately as I think, but they had seen her car parked at the unknown trap house, and or her car had been used by the person that they were looking for. See, some kind of way they're trying to connect
Her
the
car, yeah.
person that died, her car, to the person that they were looking for via the warrant. And
See,
supposedly this dude, he was selling a lot of weight. I don't know. But
I
that
think it's
that's
vice
their
versa.
justification.
I think his car was parked at
Was seen
her,
at her house.
yeah, and
Oh,
well, but again, regardless, I think the dude, his name's Kenneth Walker. I just looked it up. He did what any man should do,
what do? Right.
and
Exactly right.
now they're trying to charge him with attempted murder of a police officer.
Police
Now,
officer, correct.
get this. Shout to the judge, to Olu Stevens. They This dude has a history with the state of, was it Kentucky? Louisville?
I don't. Yeah, it is Louisville. It is
So
Louisville. Yes, it is.
he's known for a couple of years ago, he got suspended because he dismissed an all white jury. There was an all white jury, and the person on trial was a
A
black
black
person.
man. Mhm.
So he dismissed the jury
Mhm.
and said, "Get the fuck out of here. I want to see
Mhm.
more diversity on this jury."
Correct.
So he got suspended, I think for like 90 days or something for that, because I don't know. I just know he got
Cause,
so.
because the Constitution says that a jury of my peers, 12 white people, believe it or not, they're not my peers. They don't know, and I know it sounds cliche, but they don't know my struggle. They don't. They don't know what black people go through on a daily basis. And you know what's funny? Um, what's funny is, just to give you an example of how oblivious white people are to what goes on with black people, or some, brown people too, on a daily basis. We had a discussion in our office, and we were talking about you know this pandemic and children not having food to eat, and how they rely on school lunches to feed them for the most part, breakfast, lunch, as the one or the two good meals that they have in a day. And
Man,
one of the white
I
Mhm.
survived off of that shit too, right quick too. My
Yes,
my mama used to drop me off at school an hour before school started because that's when you got breakfast.
school lunch. Yeah, school breakfast. Right,
Mhm.
right. So we were having this discussion because I made a comment about how I felt badly for the kids because of, those meals that they count on. And white guy in the office goes, um, I don't understand that. So what do they do during the summer when school is not there? And I said, they're in programs
Same
that
thing.
feed them. And he goes, well, why? And then one day we were having a discussion about walking down the street and people shifting across the street and shifting on the sidewalk when they see you walking towards them. And this same person said, that's not true. And I said, maybe not for you.
Hmm.
And he was like, is that true? Does that happen? I said, in 2020,
The fact
that
that
it
the f-
happens.
the fact that you would
Yeah,
even ask again after I'm telling, see, and that's been black people's problems our entire existence is I'm telling you, this is what's happening. Wait, is that really happening? Let me ask somebody else.
right,
Seriously?
right,
Like, you're not going
right.
to
And I,
believe me telling you this, but let 4 or 5 other people confirm it. And then you're
right,
still going to be fucking suspicious.
right. You're still not going to believe because how many times has our good friend said, that's not true. And we've had to say, yes, it is.
Man,
It's because they have never experienced it. It's because it's like I would love for them just to spend a day in a life.
right?
Honestly, it would give them perspective, but they don't have it. And because they have never experienced that, because they've never had to go through that, it is hard for them to wrap their minds around it because they hear it and even hearing it from outside sources, it can't be as bad as that. And believe me, this same person said those exact words. It can't
Now,
be as bad as that. And I said, you're right, it's worse.
I call that being complicit. I don't even call that being ignorant. I don't call that being, oh, I'm unaware. I can't relate. That's just being straight up complicit.
You know what?
Because
It's
if you don't
human.
see a
No,
problem,
it's human though, because we
being
don't want to
complicit,
see. No, no, it is human. We don't want to see. That's just like, for example,
I don't want to see this shit. I'm
and
seeing
that's
it.
exact. You are seeing it because you have to. But for the most part, things that we don't want to acknowledge, we are deliberately, willfully blind to. Because think about this, you might know that the guy 2 blocks down is beating his wife. You might know that.
Hmm.
But have you ever called the police to report it? No. You willfully you turn a blind eye because you don't want to be involved.
That's
Guess
going
what?
back to the top of the show, though. Black people have a certain set of rules.
Right.
Mind your
Mind your
damn
business.
business. Yeah.
Mind your business. Exactly right. So in their head, it's mind your business for things that I don't want to acknowledge happening, even though I know it is. Because if I acknowledge that this thing is happening, then you're right.
Man,
That makes me the bad guy and my people the bad guy. And I can't live with that. I can't live with the fact that in 2020, there are people that are still out there that treat Black people like the scum of the earth.
let me revisit 2018 real quick too, because I just got reminded about this maybe 2 or 3 days ago. And shout out to the person who reminded me because I can't think of her name right now. But so in 2018, I was working late by myself in the office. I'm getting
Mm,
changed to go to the gym, and I hear the door to the suite open and close. So I'm assuming that it is our coworker, and it wasn't. So I swing the door open, thinking I'm about to startle him. I get a gun and a taser in my face by the police officer. So anyway, they asked me. I've talked about this before, so just to summarize, they asked me for ID. I said I didn't have ID because it was in my gym bag, and they told me they were responding to an alarm. I told them we don't have an alarm, Then they tried to convince me we had a silent alarm, even though I'd been working there for 13, 14 years at the time. So it's like, no, we don't have a silent alarm. Well, can you prove to me you work here? So thinking fast, I grabbed my keys. I said, yeah, we can lock the door and I'll show you that. I have access to the office. Did all that. They left. So I called management of the company and I said, yo, man, I just explained what I just did to him. And he said, are you sure that happened? The fuck do you mean? Am I sure that a police officer put a gun in my face and another one put a taser in my face? What do you mean? Am I sure? And then again, it went straight to the justification.
Mhm.
Well, this must have happened or that must have happened.
Mhm.
Maybe
Mhm.
someone saw you coming in the office and they thought you were breaking in. Maybe it was an alarm for the office one street over. Like that has the same address but a different street name. And I'm like, no,
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure that's not it. But
Mhm.
again, I'm like, just the fact that you would start trying to justify why this happened to you, like, let me walk up.
Once again, like I said, it's because they don't want to believe that in this day and age that is still happening because in their head, we in America, we've moved so far away from our wicked past. You know, we've moved so far away, and these are these same people that say, "Man, I want these people to be off of food stamps, and I want these
Mm-hmm.
people to be off of housing," but they benefit because they buy properties and put them on Section 8.
Yeah.
Same people. Same people who say stuff like that. Same people who say, man, these Mexicans coming in here illegally. But when they
Mm-hmm.
need work done on their rental properties, first people that they go and get are
Right.
illegal Mexicans,
And
right?
then
So,
they're also the same people that are bitching right now about the additional $600 in unemployment that people affected by COVID are getting. They've never
uh-huh.
made this much money in their lives. This doesn't give them any incentive to work. So what?
What? Right. Exactly
They
right.
need money. They're getting money. So what? How does this affect you? Cause I'm not getting $600. That's basically it. It's fucking jealousy or some shit, man.
Mm, 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 mm. Because it's always, yeah, the government's paying for this and the government's doing that and the government, and they are never gonna. But you know what? In my head, the government owes the people more than that,
Yeah. And
honestly.
at the
But
same time, these people, I know my people. Here, if we didn't have the welfare systems, the Section 8s, the child care, this, that, and the other, that's what's keeping us out of your house. So,
mm,
like,
oh,
yeah,
it's real.
you cut off
You
all that
you
welfare shit. You know what? It's gonna be the
crime goes
80s
to
all
spike.
over again.
Mhm.
Exactly. I'm
Crime
gonna be up
crime is
in your
going to
house.
spike.
But
And it's sad to say, but it's true.
so real quick in closing though, the reason I brought up Judge Olu Stevens,
Hmm.
the judge that dismissed the all white jury, is he is the one that let Kenneth Walker, the
Out
dude,
on bail.
no, didn't give him a bail,
Hmm?
didn't give him a bond, did
What?
place him on home arrest, on house arrest,
Oh,
no bail, no bond,
all right,
nothing.
all right.
So
Big
now
ups.
the whatchamacallit, the union leader of that police department issued a statement, which I would like to share with you. Yesterday, Judge Olu Stevens released inmate Kenneth Walker on home incarceration. The Fraternal Order of Police condemns this judge's actions. Just 1 week ago, this man violently attacked our officers and was charged with attempted murder after shooting a sergeant! Exclamation. Not only is he a threat to the men and women of law enforcement, but he also poses a significant danger to the community we protect! Exclamation point.
Hmm.
Uh LMPD officers put their lives on the line every day protecting the citizens of this community. Judge Stevens' actions are a slap in the face to everyone wearing a badge. His actions place our community at risk for further violence! Exclamation point. While we understand some of the current needs of our local corrections facility, we must sound the alarm now! Exclamation point. Home incarceration was not designed for the most violent offenders! Exclamation point. I call on the public to condemn the actions of Judge Olu Stevens and support your Louisville Metro police officers and protect your community. So he goes on to say that the jails are not overcrowded. They're seeing the lowest number of inmates since the early 90s.
Hmm.
So overcrowding shouldn't have been taken into consideration. And even if the jail were overcrowded, he's such a violent
Violent.
criminal
Hmm.
that, so basically, dog whistle, because now this man on home arrest has the entire police force gunning for his ass
But
because he shot
right,
one of ours.
right. But it's not funny, but this is something that has played out over and over and over again. You took the fight to him. It's not like this man was on the street committing a crime and in committing that crime shot a police officer. He was laying in his bed sleeping and thought
Hmm.
that an intruder was trying to harm him and his girlfriend who died. We're not talking about the fact that these police officers shot and killed an unarmed, innocent woman. We're talking about, oh yeah, you let a violent criminal out on the street.
And
That
that's
that's
what
that's what we're talking about.
That's what they do. They change the narrative and they
Exactly.
do it so blatantly
Mhm.
that you almost ignore that they're doing it. The same with Ahmaud Arbery.
Right.
We
They are
go
allowed
from
to do that.
black
Two
jogger to
2 months.
this
2
dude
months.
was like he's trespassing. There was a rash of
A
home
a,
invasions in this
a
neighborhood.
violent criminal. We should be named heroes because we stopped a rash of burglaries when there was nothing and no one. They looked and they could not find one call or one report about homes that had been burglarized. Like there was
Hmm.
not a string of burglaries in that neighborhood. There was nothing but vigilantes out to kill something or someone. They were going to continue to do this, just like the guy who shot the baseball player in the road rage incident here. He had done this multiple times, just
Hmm.
had never killed anyone. Just like the guy who shot the black person in the convenience store parking lot. How many times had he done the exact same thing to the point where the convenience store owner
Banned
told
him.
him to stop coming to his store?
Hmm.
It's like you see this pattern. They do it so many times till it escalates to them
Michael
killing.
Brown. They showed the video of him like 30 minutes earlier in a convenience store getting into an altercation or something with the clerk there, which had nothing to do with why Officer Darren Wilson stopped him and then essentially murdered him.
Right, right. But see, like you say, change the narrative because, whoo, lo and
Oh,
behold,
don't forget, don't forget, Botham Jean had marijuana.
of course, absolutely, yeah, that made him, you know, a great target to get gunned down,
Now
no
you
doubt about it.
Now you know that's the next thing that's gonna come out is Ahmaud Arbery had marijuana in his system or point
Something
zero 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 0.0009% alcohol from the night
alcohol,
before. But
uh-huh.
here's the thing. Did they test the two idiots who murdered him? Did they test
They
them for drugs or alcohol?
they
Because I
did
bet you
nothing.
you would find drugs,
A whole lot.
alcohol, meth, all that shit.
Probably freaking horse tranquilizers, all that. But the crazy thing is, they did absolutely nothing because the county in Georgia where that happened, he used to be not only an investigator but a sheriff's deputy.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, you talked about the Fraternal Order of Police in Kentucky and the letter that they wrote. That was a prosecutor in Georgia, in that county in Georgia, that recused themselves, and in the letter recusing himself from this case because they had all worked with Hillbilly One for a very long time before he retired. In that letter recusing himself, he says that Hillbilly One and Hillbilly Two, 100% that this killing was justified because they applied the law, not only the citizens arrest law, but also the stand your ground law. And because of that, they did nothing wrong and they should not be found guilty of anything.
Mm.
This is what this person writes in this letter. This black man is dead, but it's through his own fault. He did something to cause his own death. Had
Yeah.
he only, like you said, the people said, had he only stopped. But what law says that I have to stop when I see armed men chasing me? I
And
mean,
again, that's going
what sense?
back to runaway slaves. That's where it goes back to. So, in closing, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to share this quote. And by quote, it's by some random person on Reddit. And it says, our species has progressed technologically to a point where complete imbeciles can not only survive to breeding age, but thrive. It's both
Hmm,
inspiring and terrifying.
hmm.
That's the goddamn truth.
Oh,
So,
I agree. I agree 100%. And you look at Hillbilly One and Hillbilly Two, and just looking at them and
inbreds,
the things that they said in regards to this, it's like that they know what they did was wrong,
and,
but I have to justify it.
and that's what Paul was talking about not too long ago too. I think that was in the last episode of A Few Screws Loose, is when no matter how much you deny it and not fess up to whatever it is you've done, you know you're wrong. Bottom line, you know you're wrong. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of Black Law and Legalized Social Distancing Edition.
Hey,
And
we-
we took a week off here and there because during this whole quarantine thing, most of the challenge with doing this show is getting my co-host to put on pants, as you heard at the top of the show. No pants, no show, because
wait, what
I'm
I
not
say?
down with that
What I
shit.
say?
I'm not
What I
down with that
say?
shit. Well, I'm glad I put on pants today. I had to remind myself I didn't know I had pants. I'm like, psh,
Yeah, because I ran outside. It's true. I ran
see,
outside, and I was like, I had to. As soon as I ran outside, I'm sitting outside. Like 30 seconds went by, and then I like touched my leg to see if I actually had pants.
and that's where we are in 2020, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dan.
Yes.
Keep up with me, Twitter, IG at I am Dan on Drugs. Keep up with the show across all platforms at Black Law Podcast.
And I'm Justine, and you can follow me at I Tell Legalize on Twitter. Thank you guys. Hopefully, we shake the dust off this new normal and we can be in the same place at the same
I
time.
got antibodies.
Now,
I'm good. I
man,
got
you
antibodies.
you know what? Those antibodies could affect me and
Man,
infect me,
shit.
and I'm not down with that.
I read the
But you know what?
story about the sailors, and from what they're saying is it was not a second infection; it was a
They don't think
longer
that
incubation.
patient period, right? They don't think
Hmm.
that they actually got rid of the disease. But
Or they
that
actually
within
had it
itself,
to begin with.
well, that's the thing. They tested positive.
They did, but there was a rash of false positives, and back when they
Right.
tested them, the testing wasn't as standardized as it is now. So they tested them once. They got a positive. They quarantined them on Guam for 14 days.
Mhm.
Then tested them again. Got two negatives. Got back
Mhm.
on the ship. They reported flu-like symptoms.
Mhm.
Then boom, they got tested and got positive again. So what they're saying is either it has a longer incubation period.
Which is scary. I mean,
Yeah.
all of honestly, any one of the scenarios in my head is scary because if they had a longer incubation period, that's scary because even during that incubation period, they are shedding virus and they
Mm-hmm.
can infect somebody else. If they had it, they didn't, and now you have it again, means I can be reinfected even though I may have antibodies. That's scary within itself. So testing bad, that's scarier because now you have people that walk around that say, "Oh, I'm positive, and now I should have antibodies, so I'm good," who may not have been positive and can still get this disease. So, like I said, all of these scenarios are scary in this time. That's why
See,
stay home, be safe.
you need to treat it like chicken pox though. Just go out there, catch the shit right quick, get it over
Get
with,
it,
get it out your
get it,
system, and
get it,
you good. You good.
man. But I thought I had it though. You know what I'm saying? My
Wait,
immune
did you
system is
really
just
think you
kick ass.
had it? Did you really
I
think you had it?
I promise you,
When did you get sick?
when that test came back and it said negative, I was like, "What you mean negative?" When I looked at that thing and it said negative, I was shocked me to my core. I just knew that I had it at
Mm,
some point. I knew
Lady,
that it did.
ladies and gentlemen, too, to catch you up, since we've been gone, we signed up for a study, a COVID study, right? To
Yes,
get an active test and to get antibodies test.
antibodies.
So the active test, they take the Q-tip that's this long and they
Ooh,
stick it into your brain, and
man, that
then
shit
they
hurts.
twist it and twist it for 10 seconds each nostril,
Mhm,
and then they got
mhm.
your head against the wall. And look, back in the day, I got a STD test. It was gonorrhea, syphilis, chlamydia.
Oh
One of them kind of
Jesus,
tests where they stick the Q-tip in your dick
up
and
there.
twist it.
Mhm, mhm.
So
Felt like
the
that.
the man, I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about that one. But what the nurse did at the time, I was like 18 years old, and she put me up against a wall, and she was like, "Stand here, and I'm gonna take this Q-tip, da 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 da." And I'm like, why we move from the little bed thing that you sit on to the wall? Not thinking. She stuck that Q-tip in. I jumped the fuck back. I couldn't go anywhere. The wall. They did that shit with the damn COVID shit. They sat me down in a
Yep.
chair, a wall behind me, and they're like,
Mhm.
I'm gonna need your nostrils. All right, here. And as soon as I felt the burning, you ever jumped into a pool and then the water shoots up in here and
Up
it
in.
burns?
Mhm.
I felt that shit and my head jerked
You
back.
check back. I
Wall.
did that. I
Like,
did
God
that. No
damn it.
doubt.
That
And when I
shit
tell
hurt.
you, but you said you didn't cry,
I didn't
boy.
cry. I felt it, but I
Tears,
didn't cry.
tears were pouring down my face. I could not, like, my tear duct was on auto and it just kept pouring, would not stop. I could not stop. She kept giving me tissue and the tears just kept running. I don't know, like I felt like as she was screwing that thing in, she's clicked my tear ducts are on. It
They
wouldn't
hit the
stop.
tear ducts. Mm-hmm. They did. They were
It was
surprised that
painful.
I wasn't crying, but then got the blood test too. So turns out my active infection, the swab, came back negative, and
Mm,
my blood said I got the antibodies. So I am a COVID survivor. You know what I'm saying? Y'all want to cash at me a little something, something because
yeah,
hey,
whatever.
because I'm a
Yeah, well,
survivor.
I'm negative. I'm negative, negative. And like I
When
said,
did you get sick
my
though?
okay, so um around this time that all y'all were being infected and infectious, that was around the time that I started having allergy and sinus issues. Now, I go through this on a yearly basis, almost monthly basis. I'm either having allergic reactions or I'm having sinus issues. Well, I started having those. So I thought that I kept saying to myself, everybody around me sick. This must be, okay, I got it, I have mild symptoms. So I'm thinking, all right, cool. Did it. I'm walking around, even though I'm walking around safely, because I only go to work, home, and the grocery store, and I'm wearing masks and whatever. I'm still being, socially distancing, still being cautious. I still think that I've had it. And then everybody in the office started testing either positive for active or positive for antibodies. And I'm thinking, okay, doing this study, about to take this, and they're about to tell me I have the antibodies, if not the active infection. They tell me no and no. And I'm like, how do I not have these antibodies? That must be wrong.
And
I
that
think I got a false negative, man.
it could be because in our office we call it the bullpen because it's like a bullpen, but there's a
Seven
walkway
people.
and we're all within arm's reach of each other. There's been numerous positive tests, but you tested negative, and then the person who sits in the cubicle right there beside you tested negative, and then the one that sits way
Right.
in the corner tested negative as well.
Correct. But then the other one tested positive.
Right. So I don't know. All I know is my immune system, all that training I've been doing, them gym videos, you know what I'm saying? I've been look, all that right there.
Man,
Man,
whatever.
man, my immune system is black arm flex emoji. Cause
Whatever.
my shit is
You fought
strong.
it off. You fought it off. You actually got it and fought it. I didn't have to fight it. My body, I'm like Wonder Woman. My body went
They
pew,
wonder if you a
pew,
woman.
pew, 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 deflected
Man,
all that shit.
whatever,
Y'all were
man.
trying to throw at it.
Who you know done kicked the flu's ass and then turned around and kicked COVID's ass. Like, first my body was like,
Whatever.
man, that flu shit, that shit off of me. Then COVID came along. I ain't gonna lie, I felt like a fucking zombie for like 2-3 days.
You look like one too. You
And
still do, matter of fact.
this shit was funny because I remember it was on a Saturday and old boy said, I got up at 3:00. I said, all right, y'all, I'm out. Dude said, it's my Saturday to leave early. I looked at him and said, so? And walked out the back door. That's how you know I was feeling like shit. I don't give a fuck. I'm gone. But yeah, shout out to all the people that's really struggling with this shit. All the people who don't have my immune system, you know what I'm saying?
Nah,
And
whatever.
they actually asked me if I wanted to donate blood.
The plasma? Yeah, because they want plasma. Are you
And
doing it?
I said no, not at this time,
You
because
should.
I need more information. Like, if I'm gonna give you my blood, I need to be sure that it's gonna be useful and helpful because I don't
Well,
like
they're
that blood
using the
donation.
plasma. I get it, but they're using the plasma for vaccination. They're using the plasma to try to pinpoint
Duplicate the antibodies or some
something.
shit.
Right, exactly right. And because they actually injected. I can't remember who it was that it's somebody that's like either a singer or some celebrity had it, did the plasma donation, and then they used their antibodies, they injected them in some COVID patients. So
Hmm.
that's what they're using it. That's what they're using it for, to try to build up their immunities via antibodies. But had I had it, I definitely would have given blood.
I might not, but I think by the time all this shit is said and done, in all honesty, we're gonna have herd immunity if the virus does not mutate. Because right now we're
And let's hope
reporting
it don't.
what 1 we're at 1.5 million cases, give or take.
something like that,
That
right?
is underreported, and I don't care what
Correct.
anybody says.
It's
Probably
probably
like
4 times that much.
5, 6 million people easy
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
early on they weren't even allowed. We know someone who had the shit whose doctor kept turning
And
her away. Nope, stay home.
right,
Nope, you got the flu,
couldn't get
Tamiflu.
tested. That's
Yeah.
right. Correct.
So anyway, peace out, people.
Yeah. All right, babes. Thanks.
Man.